welcome to the 80th episode of PauseCast. It is April 26th, 2018. I definitely didn't have to look at the screen to see that. I'm Jessica Alouette, and I use she, her pronouns.
I'm Mark Hanna, I use he, him. Welcome.
Hey, Mark.
Hey.
We missed a week last week, didn't we?
We did.
I'd like to explain why. It's because I was in a bad mental health spot. I've been super overworked lately, so I haven't had the time or energy to really do much else. So, I got to play some video games in the evenings, and it was, super late by that point, and I just was drained. I'm feeling a lot better this week, though.
I'm glad you're feeling better. If playing video games starts to feel like a chore, then you need a break.
Oh. Thank God it's almost the weekend, and we had a little break in the middle of the week thanks to Anzac Day.
Yeah, this week was quite nice for that.
Yeah.
It's like 2 little mini weeks with a mini weekend in between.
It's made me think about how Wednesday is bullshit and we should have every Wednesday off. That actually might be super good and refreshing. Or like a half-day Wednesday. Give us a half day. It'd be nice.
I don't know if a 3-day weekend every time would be better than that. I don't know.
I feel like the midweek break is very important. I think it's good to have that, you get the initial momentum of the week, right? You get a little bit of time to cool down, and then you can get back on your momentum for days 4 and 5.
I don't know. I like when you can stay up real late on Friday and Saturday, and then if you do it again on Sunday.
These are both valid points and approaches, I think.
I think 3-day weekend, and then a gap in the middle of the week as well.
Okay. Now you're speaking my language. All right.
That's definitely what this podcast is about.
Yardnome737 in the chat says, if you have a 3-day weekend, then Tuesday just becomes the new Monday, or whatever day you come back in on.
Well, you have to have one if you're going to work at all.
I mean, you could also just you could take Friday off. You could make that the case, so you could still have that, your mug could still say, oh, I hate Mondays, and it would be relevant.
And then all of the Critical Role merchandise that says, is it Thursday yet, will be even more relevant.
There you go. Mark, what have you been playing these past couple of weeks? Now that we can actually... Let's talk about video games, the real reason we're here, live on the internet.
The secret reason.
Is it secret?
Well, in this episode, maybe. Don't talk about it.
Shh.
Anyway, I've actually played a bunch this past fortnight. It's been like a busy video game fortnight. So the first...
I can't believe you've been playing the popular Battle Royale game, Fortnite, this entire week.
I've actually never played that game.
Okay.
But I know about it. Actually, I think it's pretty much been all this last 1 week that I've played a lot, honestly. So, The first big thing was that a week ago, Monster Hunter World introduced a new monster. Which I've done... I think I've fought 3 of them now. It's quite an ordeal. It's interesting the way they've done it. I really like it. Although it's strange. This monster's only going to be available until I think March the 3rd. So I assume at some point they must bring it back periodically. Otherwise, if you haven't bought the game yet, or you're not far enough in the game to fight it yet, you just completely miss out, which seems kind of counter what they've been about previously. So I hope it'll be coming back at some point. But it's in typical Monster Hunter style. It's really nice. It's distinct from all the other monsters, well designed and fun to fight. My flatmate has said that it feels like what the Zora Magdaros fight, which is sort of the main story boss, should have been. And I think he's completely right about that. The main boss fight in the story with Zora Magdaros is just kind of... It's very scripted, and you don't feel like you're fighting that monster. You're just sort of riding on it. And it's always more tedious than the other fights I've found. Whereas in this one, it's a huge monster. You're sort of chasing it through a few areas, trying to deal incremental damage to it. And at the end, you drive it off instead of killing it. And it feels epic, and it's so much more interactive than the monsters actually fighting you. It's really cool. The new monster is called Kulve Taroth. It's kind of a gold-covered creature. It's got this big solid metal mantle over it that you're attacking through the first half of the fight, slowly weakening it, breaking it parts off, with the ultimate goal being breaking its horns off, supposedly for research purposes. But this is actually a monster you can't kill in Monster Hunter World, which is kind of another reason, I think, to wonder if it'll come back. Because they're kind of, in the story, making out to be only one. But then there's also the Monster Hunter thing of, they always do that, and you can always fight it again anyway. But there are a couple of different things about this monster's fight. First one is, everyone in a session can contribute, up to 16 people. You still fight it in groups of 4, but if there's another group of 4 also fighting it, you help each other. You get more points to get better rewards at the end from both completing objectives. And you tend to fight it several times, getting incrementally further each time, and the fight resets each one. And the more objectives you've done, the longer the fight can last before it runs away, and the faster you can break its parts. And then once you eventually break its horns and drive it off, you get the final rewards. And its gear is very different to how Monster Hunter's ever done stuff before. I'm honestly, I'm not sure if I like it, hate it, or I'm different to it. I don't really know, but it's always neat to see them do something different. The way this works is, it has an armor set as normal, but it doesn't have weapons you can craft. Instead, you get items that get appraised into weapons, which is basically, it's, instead of, I decide I'm going to make the longsword of this monster, I get random weapons. And rather than being like this monster's weapons, they tend to be gilded versions of existing weapons that have a chance to have better elemental damage than the actual weapon. So you can get some really good stuff, and you can get a whole lot of stuff that isn't that great that you can just sell. And it can look pretty neat. But it's very gaudy if that's not the look you're going for as well. But yeah, it's neat new content. The area you fight it in is a new biome with new endemic life. They've done a really nice job of making it, again, feel like part of an ecosystem. Like, one thing about this monster is it drops a lot of little things that you can pick up. And there are crabs around that will come and take those little things away. There are little monsters that you've seen in other areas as well, and they have this established culture around building masks and finding stuff to adorn their masks. And this thing drops gold everywhere, so of course they worship it, and have like masks with big golden ornaments on them, and will fight you if you fight it. So they've continued doing a good job of making stuff feel like it's a part of the world, instead of here's the world and here's the monster you fight. So yeah, it's really cool, and it's so soon after the Devil Joe, so I hope they keep adding monsters this fast. It'll be incredible.
16 players is like it's a new record for any sort of Monster Hunter monster, isn't it?
So there's been Monster Hunter Frontier, which is an like MMO Monster Hunter sort of thing on PC that's been accessible, I think, only in Korea or something for a long time. I know they have had a monster where you could fight with 16 people before, but in terms of Western releases,
it's not strictly new to the series then, in theory.
But to the series Western releases, yeah, you're still not fighting actually 16 people like you can see all of each other at once. It's like 4 people go on a hunt together, or up to 4. But if there's another group on the same hunt, they interact just by, you'll see, another group has completed an objective, you get 20 points from that sort of stuff. So it's sort of, you get a little bit of feedback from them also fighting it.
Gotcha. Monster Hunter Frontier, by the way, is accessible in Japan, Korea, and China.
Thanks.
And all of those have servers within them. Interestingly, you need a social security number to play on the Korean version, but it doesn't carry the same monthly fee as the Japanese version.
Right.
What a weird setup.
Yeah, that's I think what I was remembering, because I tried once to get onto it and I managed it and then realized, what am I doing? I can't read anything.
Yeah.
Which was kind of obvious in hindsight. But yeah, it's a bit of an odd one, particularly for that social security number login thing.
Yeah, that's a real wild one, I think.
Yeah, but it's been going for a long time, and they've had like seasons, I think, that they've released with a bunch of new monsters every so often.
Yep, that's correct. I'm looking at 10 seasons, plus 5 for Forward, is what they called them, which is just, it seems like it's another season.
Yeah, so it's been really interesting to occasionally go on the wiki and see what are the frontier-only monsters. I think they, like, sort of test stuff out there a bit sometimes. They can be a bit more experimental from what I've seen there, but I haven't played the game to the point of actually fighting any monsters.
And this was released in 2007 initially, too, on the PC. Like, that's
11 years ago.
That's wild. I did not know that was existent.
I didn't know until well after I was playing Monster Hunter.
I definitely also see at least 20 to 30 monsters that had their first appearance in this game.
Yeah.
Which is a non-trivial amount, I'd say.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's in that game that I, who plays every Monster Hunter game I can, have never seen or got to fight.
Huh. All right, neat.
Yeah.
What else have you been playing this past week? I know you've got one big release, and maybe we'll just touch on it lightly, and then we'll go into it a little bit more later.
Yep, I've got two other things I've played.
One I know, and one is a surprise to me at this point.
Okay. Oh yeah, I haven't actually told you what it was. I picked up a game that I've actually owned for a while, thanks to Humble. And I played, I think, like 4 hours of it, but I need to go back and do another session to finish it. It's Kentucky Route Zero.
Ooh.
Which I remembered when I was just in the I want to play a game mood, and I remembered having scrolled through my Humble list a while ago and found War of the Shogun, I think it was called. That tactics game.
Blades of the Shogun.
Blades of the Shogun, the Shadow Tactics, yeah. And I thought, I'll have another look through there, see if there's anything else. And I remembered seeing Kentucky Route Zero and thinking it looked really neat. I liked the art style, and it looked like it was pretty... like it wasn't combat oriented or anything like that. I wanted to try it out, and I did, and I've really enjoyed it. Like I said, I put like 4 hours into one session or something. I just played it all evening, and it's really nice. It's kind of, I guess I'd call it meditative. It's slow and gives you time to think, and the way it works is really interesting. Where in a lot of dialogue, you swap perspective a bit, and you decide what answers are given, and you can affect the story a bit that way. Like you will, as a character, see. Well, one of the characters you play will ask someone about their past, and then you'll be given the opportunity to answer that. You don't know anything about them. You're just presented with these options, and you're sort of building the character by doing that. It's really neat. I've really enjoyed it. I'd recommend checking it out, and I'm looking forward to finding some time to going back and finishing it. The reason I haven't gone back and finished it is that yesterday I also picked up Battletech, the new MechWarrior game. Which, it's really good.
Technically, MechWarrior is a new Battletech game.
Wait, what?
Battletech is the original, and MechWarrior spun off of that, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it's called the MechWarrior universe now, though.
Oh, right, because like MechWarrior was the thing that did take off.
Yeah. So I played MechWarrior 2 when I must have been like 7 or 8 or something. And I saw it at a friend's house and had to get it. And then somehow managed to get it. I don't remember how, because I do remember my parents specifically saying no to getting it, so they must have given in at some point. And then later on, I think I didn't get MechWarrior 3, but I did get MechWarrior 4. Looking back on it now, it probably looks awful in terms of graphics, but I do remember that game had the most amazing manual. It was really cool. It was like an in-world MechWarriors manual. And they had like all the schematics of a bunch of mechs, and then space at the back for more ones. But a whole bunch had been drawn in fake pen, as though it was the person who had owned this previously, drawing in other ones they'd seen that weren't already in the manual. It was really cool. I was a big fan of the series, and I was never really good at it. But I think that this tactics version, and this isn't the first MechWarrior Tactics game there has been, but it's the first one I've played. This is really working for me. I'm really excited to play it. And like you said, we can talk more about it later, because I still haven't asked you what you've played this week.
This week and other week, I believe that's called a Fortnite. I've played 0 hours of Fortnite because I uninstalled that game a while ago.
Really? Did you not enjoy it?
Not as much as I enjoy PUBG, my battle royale of choice at this point, I think.
I guess when they fill pretty much exactly the same niche, you may as well pick one instead of having both available.
Yeah, exactly. And, like, I didn't want to invest time in becoming good at building in Fortnite, was the other problem.
Okay. Do you have a bunch of friends that play Fortnite? Because I suppose that will be the other reason why you might keep both around.
I don't. And that's the final nail in the coffin for Fortnite.
Yeah, fair enough.
I actually kind of want to bring at least two of these, as a main thing I want to talk about a little bit later.
Sure.
And that is Grid and Grid 2, both of which are racing games.
Okay.
So 2 games within the same series that I've played a few hours of and change of both. I think I've played about 6 hours of Grid 2 and 2 or 3 of Grid 1, which was enough for me to get like an idea of how that series, or how the initial entry worked. And I want to talk about how that compares to Grid 2 a little later, which I've put significantly more time into, mostly because of the visual improvements. I also want to talk about, I've played Yakuza 0. I'm going to briefly touch on this. That game made me cry.
Good.
That game made me like straight up cry in Chapter 14. I dare not say what happens for people who have not played Yakuza 0, but
Fair
let me
enough.
tell you, it's not a game that makes me cry. It is not often that a game makes me cry. I can't think of the last time in recent memory that's not this game now that has made me cry. This made me actually cry, tears down my face and everything. Like, it's that good.
Nice.
It's that well written. The characters are like, you are that connected to them. That is how well Yakuza 0 is made. Like, that game's fucking exceptional. I have talked before on the show about how it has this really, really smart and very well executed tonal balance of like, oh, here's this like fun, goofy disco shit that you can do. And here's a very serious, dramatic crime story that is happening and unfolding right in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it manages to straddle the line between those two things without coming off as insincere in either regard. Like, the goofiness of Yakuza is completely and utterly sincere, and the seriousness of Yakuza is also completely and utterly sincere. Neither is sacrificed for the sake of the other.
That's
And
really
it
hard to do.
works. It works so well.
Like, when I think of goofy games, I think of stuff like Monster Hunter, where you don't care about the story because it's never important, or like Saints Row, where you know the whole thing is going to be constantly ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly. You think like Saints Row, you think like Just Cause, even.
Yeah, Just Cause, it's like, it's going to be a B movie all the time.
But like when you think of those games, they tend to be one or the other. I'm very pleased to say that Yakuza 0, it definitely hits that line. It hits that magic mark of doing both simultaneously and it working. So like, kudos to the Sega team and the Yakuza team for making me cry, and for being an excellent, excellent game. So I've brought Grid, I've brought Yakuza. I don't really need to play PUBG. I don't have anything interesting to contribute to PUBG discussion.
Nothing's changed since the last time. Yeah.
Yeah, nothing's really changed since the last time. And I don't really have much else that I've played. It's been mostly those.
I mean, that's as many games as I've said.
Yeah, that's fair.
Which is unusual, actually, that we've played the same number of games.
It's very unusual, but it's kind of a welcome change, I think.
Fair enough.
Before we go further into our discussions of our games that we played this week, and
Yeah.
we talk about Battletech more in depth, and we talk about Grid and Grid 2 for me, I want to ask you, Mark, E3 predictions. I want to know. I'm putting you on the spot.
Gosh, I didn't even remember about E3 at all.
You forget that I'm the one who remembers this? Surprise.
No, I knew you'd remember. I
I've
just
remembered again.
because you're the one who would remember. I didn't remember that you'd remember it because I didn't remember it. Okay.
That was a lot of that sentence.
Yeah. Can I? It's kind of more my hopes than what I actually think will happen.
Sure. I mean, that's fine. Bring it.
I would be super excited, and it's probably way too early since it came out, but to see more done with like a sequel or more DLC to Horizon Zero Dawn, which I still need to pick up the DLC for, I realize. But I don't know if this is affected in the DLC, and I don't want anyone to tell me. I know that, spoilers for the end of it, it was sequel baiting. It like set up a sequel pretty explicitly to continue the story, and it was successful, so it feels to me like it's almost inevitable there will be a sequel to it, and I want it to be sooner rather than later, so that would be really cool.
Yeah. Yarnome737 in the chat suggests that E3 dies, finally replaced by E4.
I'm trying to think what the other E would stand for.
So we have
Extreme.
Yes, there it is. The Extreme Electronic Entertainment Expo.
There we
There
go.
it is.
That's okay. Yeah, that's my number 2 prediction. Backyard gnome up on that one.
Yeah, I'm Yardnome. Thank you. That particular nugget is going to become the title of this episode, I think. Oh, what makes it extreme is now the next question.
Oh, that's pretty obvious, I would have thought. So every time someone is playing a game on stage, there are other people that are doing what happens to the character to them in real life. So if they get shot, they get shot. If they get shot with a bow and arrow, they get shot with a bow and arrow.
Oh my god. You've cracked it. This is VR2.
Oh,
Sequel
no,
to-
that's the thing. They can't dodge shit because they're wearing a VR headset. And they're on one of those treadmills that keeps them on the spot.
If you die in E4, you die in real life, says Maya Bird.
Yes.
This is it. This is extreme entertainment. I think, personally, E3, my comedy prediction is PUBG 2 and 200 players drop onto an island.
But it's a small island.
I think that's the next major evolution, is we get 200 players dropping out of a plane onto an island. That's it. That's video games. Every fucking video game's gonna have a battle royale mode. I'm preemptively tired.
You do enjoy it though, right?
You're
getting tired of it?
I like PUBG.
Mm-hmm.
I think battle royale is like a fun concept. I think PUBG and Fortnite have really nailed down the execution of this to the point where, like, I look at every other game that's, like, I look at the potential for all these games to be announced with, like, bullshit tacked on battle royale modes. And it's gonna be like, one, either you're not going to find the player base for this mode, or two, it's going to be tacked on. It's just not going to feel sincere outside of it being a potential cash grab. And I think that's going to suck.
I think it'll be most interesting to see where this goes in like 3 or 4 years. Because what you see sometimes is this sort of huge success from a game that's not a popular gameplay style or genre that there's been before can open it up a lot. Like how when Minecraft was successful and there was every little game was trying to be Minecraft. And there hasn't really been anything else huge come out of that, I don't think. But you look at other things like what's come out of after Call of Duty 4, what that did to shooters, and what Age of Empires did to real-time strategy games and stuff like that. I wonder if a few years down the line, that formula will be nailed down even better by whatever comes after these. I don't think it's going to happen right around the corner, like you say. There's a lot of stuff that is now just going to sort of try to tack on without actually improving the formula markedly.
Yeah, without thinking beyond the basics of like, okay, what is the battle royale formula?
Yeah,
I think that is the fear, is that I'm just going to see like a lot of games that are just, here is the battle royale formula in this slightly different setting. It's like, cool, I've already seen this exact gameplay thing. If you have a really unique setting, I could see that working out maybe a little bit better for you in terms of broad appeal. But, like, if you don't think much beyond that, then I think you're doomed to failure in any space, really. If you don't look at the basic formula of something and think, how can we iterate on this? How can we legitimately improve it? How can we give it our own twist?
Yeah.
And I think too many games, especially in the AAA space, is mostly what I'm concerned about here. I think too many games, there's this very real risk that they'll just do it without thinking. And I think that preemptively is what made me tired.
Yeah.
Serious prediction. I want to see whatever weird sci-fi RPG Bethesda's working on.
Wait, they're doing a what now?
They're doing a science fiction RPG. It's called Starfield. We've known this for a while. Just the name.
We've known this, have we?
Okay, sorry. The name has been public for a while.
Yeah, everyone but me is known probably.
But it's a Bethesda-made sci-fi RPG. I want to see that announced. I think that's like the biggest thing I can think of.
So is there any information about this?
Nothing.
Just the name.
We kind of only know the name.
Okay, so I shouldn't bother googling much.
There's not been any leaks or anything like that.
And this is one that Bethesda is developing.
Yes, this is a Bethesda Game Studios project.
Cool, because I tend to play a lot of their games and look at how their modding scene goes, and kind of enjoy that. So that's exciting news for me. I played the Fallout games mainly because I like the way the games they make tend to work more than actually caring about the Fallout setting, you know?
Yeah.
But I tend to like sci-fi, so this could be really interesting.
I definitely think it's got your name written all over it. Like, it seems like it was tailor-made for you.
Well, I mean, let's wait until we know more about it than the name.
Yeah, that's true. From what I understand, there's a rumbling that might actually be announced at E3 with a release date towards the end of the year. Don't get your hopes up, but those are the rumblings that I've heard.
Okay. I don't think we're at the stage where there's going to be any new console generations or anything like that.
No, certainly not. Especially not with like, hey, Microsoft's just done the Xbox One X and it does full 4K gaming and has various enhancements for 1080p screens as well.
And I just bought a PS4 this year, so they can't do anything new for a while now. It would be unfair.
And the PS4 Pro as well. Like, both of these consoles are relatively 4K capable. PS4 Pro significantly less so, just in terms of horsepower. But in
terms of the difference between the standard and the better of each one. Yeah,
like, there's a generally lower output resolution for most games on PS4 Pro. Like, they tend to be around 1440p. But then upscaled to 4K. It's still plenty high resolution. But Xbox One so far has been the only console that can actually output true 4K on Xbox One X.
Mm-hmm.
So, be interesting to see.
I think there will be another, even more confusing trailer for Death Stranding.
Oh God, don't get me thinking about Death Stranding again.
I'm going back now through my mind and trying to think of all the stuff I've seen at E3 that I haven't heard about since E3.
Cyberpunk 2077. I need it immediately.
There was that game with all the zombies as well, like the biker dude and the zombies.
Days Gone.
Yeah.
From Sony's stage.
I haven't really heard much about that, so I don't know if
I think
there'll
that
be
was
more about that.
wasn't that like last year that was announced? So we'll probably see some more stuff of that.
Yeah, but it's not an announcement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. New Prey DLC is being teased as well. If you
Prey. Which one is Prey?
Prey is the one made by Arcane. The developers of Dishonored.
Yeah, the one that I played the first part of at your place at one time. Yes. Sorry.
That one.
Yep.
Maya Bird also says that in Devolver Digital we're talking about doing a new press conference for this E3. I personally can't wait. I didn't like their last one. Controversial opinion. It was too much for me. I know that is the joke, TM, but it was definitely too much for me. So I kind of tuned out of that.
Actually, because that name sounds like Revolver, I wonder if there'll be any more on that sequel to Red Dead Redemption.
Oh yeah, might show up at E3. Maybe on Microsoft's stage. I think if it's going to show up anywhere, it's going to show up on MS's stage, mostly because they could handle 4K in theory. And Microsoft likes touting the fact that they can do true 4K.
Fair enough.
I witnessed the most powerful console ever.com. Shall we talk about...
Sure, I'm not thinking of anything else. I'm bad at predicting the future, it turns out.
Yeah, that's weird. I'm not a precog, as it turns out. You want to talk about your thing with Battletech? I want to hear a lot more about this game because I know basically nothing.
So, the universe it's set in is 31st century humanity is spread to the stars. There's a really nice short hand-drawn style cinematic at the start that just goes through the whole history in a really intuitive way. Having played previous MechWarrior games, I've always known there's a lot of lore. I've never known shit about any of it, and it's been hard to find out about it. This game is way better in that respect. Just immediately off the bat, they set the scene in a way no other game I've played of theirs has done. And the idea is that a couple hundred years ago, this big galactic civilization basically fell apart into a series of succession wars where everyone was fighting with huge, giant, walking war robots. Kind of Pacific Rim, but less mobile. And now you run a mercenary company and there's some story stuff around it. But it's fairly open-ended in the non-direct story stuff in this game. And when you go in, you control 4 mech warriors in their mechs. So that's the mech warrior being the person and the mech being the machine. And there's like a hex grid sort of map where you just see the dots in the middle of the hex rather than the hexes with nice terrain. And it's really different to XCOM, honestly, has been the biggest thing that stands out because obviously that's what I'm comparing it to, whether I want to or not. XCOM 2 have been my tactics games of choice for years now, and I really like both of them, and I've played enough of them to know what I don't like about them. And I feel like Battletech doesn't seem... well, actually, I can't say because some of the problems I have are like in-game stuff, but immediate impressions is Battletech is different in some ways that are neither better nor worse, but refreshing to play something different, and doesn't seem to have some of the downsides of XCOM. It's very slow to play, which surprised me a little bit. Turns take a long time. It goes through 4 phases where light mechs operate in the first phase, and then standard, and then heavy, and then assault. And during each phase, you and the enemy alternate turns. And on your turn, you can pick any of your mechs, but you know they will have a turn before your next mech gets a turn. Which is different to how XCOM did it. And there's no like cover system in the same way as XCOM has. All the stuff is gonna be comparing it because that's how I'm distinguishing them in my head. But there are some things you can do, like actually move, around a mountain using the terrain rather than just if I'm standing next to this vending machine, I'm harder to hit. If they shoot you on the left, it's going to damage your left side stuff. If they shoot you on the right, it's going to damage your right side stuff. Rather than having small pools of health, each component has armor and health and can be destroyed. Some things are better. It's way worse, for example, if your central torso is destroyed. That's really bad. Destroying a leg is hardly better because then you fall down, and I don't know what happens after that because I've never seen a mech survive having its leg blown off. Arms get blown off a fair amount, actually. Just the last mission I did was super intense. I was playing before we recorded. It took, I think, maybe an hour and a quarter to do this mission. By the end of it, 2 of my mechs were heavily damaged with the arms having been blown off, and 3 of my mech warriors had been injured. And there's this really neat management side over the top of it where you're running a mercenary company, and if you can't earn enough money to stay afloat, I don't know, I guess it's game over. I haven't got to that point. I hope I won't. But the fact that they'd been injured and my mechs had been damaged meant I had to spend a lot of money repairing them, almost as much as I earned for the contract. It takes a long time to repair them, and during that time I can't use them in other contracts. And 3 of my mech warriors are out in the sick bay for a while because they were injured. So I have to sit around knowing that I have to pay everyone at the end of the month and pay the upkeep costs for the mechs I'm keeping operational. And it's really interesting. So I'm feeling like now I need to back off and go to some space where there are easier contracts, do a few of them, maybe get some better components. I had a really nice weapon destroyed when the left arm was blown off one of my mechs this time. So now I'm trying to find a replacement to it. There's a lot of customization in terms of this mech's right torso has got a ballistics weapon hard point, so you can pick a ballistic weapon to go there, and it could be a small one or a big one depending on what you want to focus on. There's a whole lot of customization there, and there are a lot of different mechs. That's something that has always stood out to me in all of the mech warrior games, is just how much variety there is in the number of mechs. I haven't seen any assault ones yet, but I've already seen a lot of different variants. I feel like it's unlikely I'll end up using one of each, because there's just too many to even try, probably, which is really neat. I like that. I'm sorry for how stream of thought this is, by the way.
That's fine.
Because I'm
stream
just
of thought is kind of what I do this entire
show. Yeah. So your mech warriors as well, they level up. The skill system's interesting. It's not too deep, but I don't think it needs to be because there's so many other systems adding to this. Basically, there are 4 skill types. Each skill has got 2 abilities you can activate. But, so each have a level 1 ability, level 2 ability. You can only activate 2 level 1 abilities, and then out of those 2 skills, you can activate 1 of their level 2 abilities. And that's all any pilot can get. So I think that means there are 12 different maxed out pilot types you can get based on that, just on the skills, which honestly is plenty. But they've got skills one of them is allows you to target multiple mechs in a single attack. So you can fire your long-range missiles at that one far away, but fire your medium lasers at this one that's closer up. Whereas normally, if you don't have that skill, you can only pick one mech to attack on your turn.
Right, yeah.
And that can be really useful because as mechs move, they gain evasion charges. It's kind of simulating if this were real time. It's harder to hit something that's moving. So even though they are stationary, it's kind of, if you sprinted, you're harder to hit. Every time something fires at you, you lose an evasion charge. So if you can fire at multiple things, you can take off more evasion charges. So that can be really useful. There is a sensor lock skill, which means that you can, any mech on your sensor that you can't see, or that you can see, you can lock onto it with your sensors, and that way, you could fire long-range missiles over a mountain at it, and it wouldn't be able to fire back if it can't see you or it doesn't have an ally that can see you. So there's some really neat tactics you can do, trying to flank them so that they have to face one of you and you can shoot them in the back. Jump jets for maneuvering. There's a whole lot of stuff, and I've started to scratch the surface is the thing. It's a lot of fun. and it feels to me like it does a really nice job of just the polish over it makes the story feel real. And I don't even mean the main story, I just mean the bit of you're running a mercenary company. Like, you might pick up a contract that includes the paying for your travel to the next star. So you watch on the screen, your ship, you've got this screen where your ship is traveling and the days tick by, and you'll arrive at a jump ship which can shuttle you between systems. You dock on it, and a couple of days passes, it warms up, and then it takes you to the next system, and then you spend more days traveling to your destination to do the contract. And just seeing that, and occasionally an event will pop up that you interact with, two people on your crew are fighting or whatever, and you have to settle them down. It all just makes it feel more real. It's just, I've been really, really enjoying it. It's the first time in a while I've got a new game that it's quite a lot. I've played, I've played a game and I've enjoyed it, but then I've gone away and I haven't felt a need to come back. Battletech is one where I've played it and I've enjoyed it, and now when I'm not playing it, I kind of wish I was playing it. You know the feeling?
Yeah, I do know the feeling.
Yeah, so I'm really happy to have one of those.
So a couple things that I found interesting as you were talking there. One, when you initially started describing the skill system, I thought it was gonna end up kind of being like the Diablo 3 rune system. Initially, was what I was kind of thinking. Right.
No, every point you spend is irrevocable.
Yeah, exactly. Which means that it's not quite as like dynamic as something like Diablo 3 is.
But I mean, in Diablo 3 you have one character, and this, you can only send in 4 mech warriors at a time, but you can have more on your roster. The more you have, obviously, the more you have to pay.
Yeah.
But
there is an upkeep to pay.
Exactly. It's interesting as well. Every time the month goes by, you can change how much you're paying them. If you don't pay them well, their morale goes down. If you pay them very well, their morale goes up. And there are morale-based abilities that can activate during combat.
Okay.
So that's neat as well. So far, I've not needed to tweak that. I just lost my train of thought right there, sorry.
Another thing has actually just occurred to me in saying that.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with Darkest Dungeon at all?
Yeah, I've played it.
Because the line of comparison I was thinking of drawing was like, the way that you're describing the Battletech roster sounds like it's like if Darkest Dungeon's roster was a lot less disposable.
Yeah, the thing that has... I enjoyed Darkest Dungeon for a little bit, but the fact that it's constantly wearing you down to the point where no one is going to last forever, that I just find difficult to play with, because I like it when my guys last forever. I feel like I would be more willing to let a bad decision play out in this game than I would have been in XCOM. Part of that perhaps might be that I don't customize the soldiers, although it does a good job of making them feel like real people with real histories. The ones that I've got have bios written for them that don't look like a generated, garbled mess. They read like a little bit of someone's life story. And they've all got like little tags associated with them. So, this person has criminal, brave, the civilization that they're from. Like one of the people, their call sign is Glitch, and their story is essentially... I don't know if this is something that everyone gets this person when they start, or if it's random or what, because I've only started once. Their story is, in the civilization they're from, a systems error, a glitch, sent them to prison, essentially. And it wasn't for years until their case came up again that they could be cleared and come out. And of course, by then, their life has been irrevocably changed. And it doesn't mention that that's why that's their call sign or anything, but it is, and it makes it easy to remember that's their story, which is really nice, actually.
Yeah, shoot.
So they feel pretty real. And the fact that they're not customizable as well kind of makes them feel more like real people in this world.
It also seems like the game is quite like grounded in reality. Like you mentioned just the simple detail of like, oh, here are like Earth days passing.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
that is something that definitely would help make that game feel like super, super grounding and easier to engage with than if that system was a lot more abstracted.
It's interesting, again, compared with XCOM, because XCOM has the same days pass, But then it feels like you're waiting for stuff to happen. Now it's I'm traveling to a contract or whatever, and the day's ticking by. Honestly, it's not, oh no, what are the aliens up to? It's, shit, payday's getting closer and I'm not earning enough money or sort of thing. Or like, it's taking so long for these mechs to be repaired, but I need to go out on a contract. So do I feel these lighter mechs I have in reserve that don't have as much firepower, or do I wait it out? You end up having these decisions to make. I'm really interested to see where it'll take me, what sort of compromises I might have to make for that. I'm hoping it'll hit that point where it's challenging for me, so it won't be just I get to a point where suddenly I've got enough money, I don't need to worry, but also it won't whittle me down to zero. I think the fact that you'll be able to change how much you're paying your mech warriors would mean that if I need to bail myself out for a couple of months, I could, and it would just have a morale hit that would make combat a little more difficult. But yeah, the fact that all these systems interact to make you have to make choices like that, I think is really nice. Like how I said, I've had to go back into safer space to take on some weaker contracts because the ones I was taking on, I was getting good pay and good salvage, but I was taking so much damage that I'm worried someone might die out there, and that's a big hit, you know? Or I might lose an entire mech, which is really expensive to replace. Like when I lost those 2 arms, you lose also every component on that arm, which might be like the best weapon on that mech. And although all the standard stuff you can repurchase if you find a shop that's selling it, because each system has a shop. I happened to be in a system with very little population, so there was no shop at the time, so I couldn't replace it immediately. But there's also some special weapons that have got little like positive modifiers. They're slightly more expensive. If you lose that, good luck finding a better replacement.
Maya Bird in the chat asks, have you played Elite Dangerous?
I've not, but I've thought about it. If I owned it, I would, but I just don't know if I would want to buy it. It does sound like my kind of game, though.
I had a good time with the brief time that I've spent with that. I need to spend a little bit more time with it, to be frank. I'll let you know when that next is on sale.
Thanks.
Because the base game is usually like $7. It's
super really?
Cheap.
Is it that cheap now? Maybe I should just pick it up.
It goes to that cheap on sale.
Oh, okay.
I'll definitely poke you the next time I see that base game on sale.
Yeah, this was an interesting case where I bought a game on release that I wasn't even particularly planning on buying. And that's because my flatmate pre-ordered it and had it on release day, and then I got to try it and immediately loved it, so I thought I'd just buy it. It was kind of funny because I'd spent the morning working on a Magic the Gathering deck, trying to decide if I buy individual cards, I have to have a hard spending limit. I think I decided on $10. In the afternoon, I splurged $50 on a video game.
Sometimes it'd be like that.
Yeah, I know, and I'm happy with it. I'm not regretting that at all. I just think it's sort of funny how I'm like, no, I must not spend money, and then I'll just spend a bunch of money.
Yarnum737 asks, does it work just picking up the base game and not Horizons? I remember a lot of the stuff I was interested in for the game was locked behind the DLC. I think if you want to get a feel for Elite Dangerous, stuff like planet landings and some of the stuff that's available in the Season Pass, you super don't need. You can experience a lot of that. You can experience a lot of that just in the base game without ever needing to worry about purchasing the DLC. Maya says that for her it was structured like a nice addition to the game, but it like from personal experience, I wouldn't describe Horizons as a necessity to start enjoying Elite Dangerous.
Although the whole actually flying a spaceship does appeal to me, I think that Battletech scratches pretty much the same itch as Elite Dangerous would for me. So having just got a game I'm enjoying playing that's in that kind of niche, even though they're very different genres, it's not something I'm thinking of picking up now because when I want to scratch that itch, I'd end up playing Battletech instead.
Yeah, sweet.
Shall
I talk about
one more thing that I'm looking forward to in this? A criticism I've made again and again on the XCOM games is how they just continually escalate and ramp up and ramp up and ramp up, and there's nothing you can do to stop it or slow it down, really.
Mm.
And then, sort of separate to that, the end game can fall a bit flat once you've got the most powerful things and suddenly the enemies aren't getting stronger. I'm really looking forward, though, to having this tactics game where I, like XCOM, can build up a company. Company's a weird word because it sounds like business. I guess it's a mercenary business. But I can build this thing up and, I've established these are my people, these are my battle mechs. And then I can just be in the world for a while and not have to worry about this constant ramping up. I'm looking forward to that a lot because that's something I wished XCOM had done or been able to do. Especially in XCOM 2 where it was kind of, it's been 20 years, but then suddenly everything's all a rush.
Alright, shall I talk about the thing that I wanted to bring?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I don't know if you know this about me. I like racing games a good deal. Like a real good deal. Turns out that driving fast cars scratches this itch within me, and it needs to be scratched every now and again. And that time has come again.
It's a hell of a lot safer to do it this way.
Yeah, it's a hell of a lot safer for me to do it this way. Though I will admit that at one point I did actually have interest in like getting into stock car racing and like learning to race on circuit.
Yeah? But you don't drive.
No, I know. It was back when I was back when I was like 15, 16, like very early in the possibility of driving. And I would go to the racetrack very frequently. On weekends, we would go out to the racetrack.
I did not know that.
Yeah, we'd watch like stock cars and like we would watch all these races take place. And although our local speedway was just like a really shitty dirt track, it was always a good time.
I used to live near a speedway, and that was not a good time. But continue.
It's a lot of noise.
Yeah.
I know that you are not someone who likes a lot of noise.
This is another advantage to doing it in video games. You can wear headphones.
Yeah, exactly, and just turn it down as much as you'd like. But I like my racing games loud. I like my engines loud. I like to race cars in video games. And so I picked up Grid a little earlier this week because it was a racing game that was in my library, and I hadn't played it. It's been sitting there for a while. I was like, fuck it. I'll try it.
It's 2013 release, so it's 5 years old.
No, that is Grid 2.
Sorry. Yes, it is. I googled Grid 2.
You cannot buy the original Grid anymore.
What?
But that was released in 2007. Music licensing.
Oh, wow. Like with Alan Wake, huh?
Yeah, like with Alan Wake, the licensing ran out. Grand Theft Auto 4 is also about to get a patch to remove several songs.
Huh.
Because the licensing has run out on those.
Copyright is weird.
Yeah, I don't like it. It's killed Alan Wake and made it impossible to buy. Actually, not quite. I can buy physical discs for anybody who'd like them. This is a serious offer. I'll buy Alan Wake for 10 New Zealand dollars and ship it to you.
It's your favorite game, so I'm not surprised to hear you offering this.
It's my favorite game. Alan Wake's really good. But Grid is kind of an interesting beast. To start out, it's kind of non-traditional in the sense that it is both combining motorsport aspects, like stuff that you traditionally see on speedways, and it's combining that with street racing. Stuff like you would see in Need for Speed. A significantly more controlled than something like Need for Speed, but similar in concept. Either way, you're racing on courses that are built primarily on city streets.
Right, so it's more like a simulation-y driver than arcade-y driver like Need for Speed then?
It's a Codemasters game, so it straddles the two.
Okay.
There are aspects of the game, Grid 1 in particular, which are simulated, like tire wear is all simulated. Damage to the engine and damage to your tires and the drivetrain below, which controls like where the wheels are actually pointing. There's damage to all of these components that is fully simulated. So if you take damage, it'll start like bending your wheels over to the one side, and you'll have to turn harder to the left or the right to adjust for the fact that your tires are now defaulting to turning a little bit because they've been damaged.
I can just see that would make me paranoid my controller was having problems.
No, it does make it very clear with like an on-screen visual cue.
Oh, okay.
And by saying like, hey, you've taken some damage to your tire, so you'll have to compensate for the turn. Like you actually get an audio cue telling you, hey, this has happened to your vehicle. Here is the adjustment you'll need to make.
Okay.
It's very clear about that, which is very cool. And like most Codemasters games, it's also very flexible on difficulty in terms of how many assists that you can have. All of these are like really cool features.
How do you mean by assists?
So you can have assists like racing lines, which tell you, hey, here's the optimal route to steer on in order to keep the most speed through these turns, and we'll show you where to start braking, because if you don't start braking by this point, you're going to be going too fast to make this turn properly.
Yeah, this was my thing in Need for Speed. If I was taking my finger off the accelerator, I wasn't going fast enough. I crashed a lot. I don't do that in real life, for what it's worth.
No, obviously. I have learned a great deal of discipline through like Dirt and Forza, and like I've learned how to actually control my racing line now, and it's probably one of my favorite things that I've done in this style of game. Just learning to actually race more effectively.
Nice.
So I played a couple hours of Grid, and then I by chance happened to look at a video of Grid 2, and there's 6 years of difference in the visuals between Grid and Grid 2. Mm-hmm. Which was huge. Just seeing the changes to the lighting and stuff was like, okay, I'm playing Grid 2 now and not playing Grid 1. And that came with a set of problems, and that's kind of why I was bringing this here.
Okay.
Because some aspects of Grid 1 were lost in the transition to Grid 2. And some of that stuff I was really bummed about.
What sort of stuff?
So, for starters, Grid 1, this is a very minor one, but it's also one of the first things you can run into. Grid 1 had the ability to choose female names for the voice acting that you could have for your character. So, like, in Grid 1, it was my name, Jessica, was being fully said by the voiceover announcers, saying, like, okay, Jessica, here's what's up with your car.
Oh, it's really cool.
Which is, Forza Horizon 3 also does this. And so do other games in the Codemasters library. Like Dirt 3 does this. So when I came over Grid 2 and it was only like male names and nicknames, I was, I think understandably, very bummed.
Yeah, that seems like a really bad backstepped take. Who would make that decision?
It's a perplexing backstep to take, for sure.
Actually, you remind me, just a real quick aside, one very neat thing about Battletech is when you're customizing your character right at the start, you pick a pronoun for them, he, she, or they, which I haven't seen games do before, and it's a really nice thing to have in there.
Yeah, I was really surprised and pleased to see that was a thing.
Not everything about this future is dystopian. Yeah,
turns out that, like, hey, maybe we can be a little bit nicer to people who use gender-neutral pronouns.
Yeah.
That'd be nice. Continuing on, some of the simulation aspects were also seemingly toned back in Grid 2, which I felt like was a huge loss. Like the ability to like have part of my tires start like wearing down during Grid 1 was something that I noticed, and I was really bummed when I came over and saw, they've stopped simulating that stuff. Aw. And they've made the simulation a little bit more unclear, and aspects of this thing just feels like a downgrade. It feels like a bizarre downgrade. Even though the visuals and even some of the game modes, which, like, Grid 2 has some really cool, like, racing styles that weren't present in Grid 1 at all. Like, there's improvements on the gameplay and visual side, and then there's, like, losses to simulation, and there's losses to minor things that made me feel like I was more welcome, I guess.
That's interesting. Do you think they were trying to go for a more arcadey feel, or, like, trimming the fat if they didn't feel those features added, or... Because it sounds like you really enjoyed them and missed them.
Yeah, they're even in just like a few hours of playing Grid 2, and the original Grid for that matter, coming between the two, like there's been a noted loss in Grid 2, and there are things that I appreciated in the first game that are just not present in the second.
That sucks. You just need to be able to port the graphics back now, eh?
Yeah, right. And then I could have everything.
Yeah.
I'll have my cake and eat it too. Yeah, it was kind of a bummer. I am curious coming into that. Actually, before I ask this question, I also do want to highlight one of the things that I do love about the game, and not just like the things that I'm bummed about in Grid 2. One of the things I actually really love is they've added this mode called Live Routes. So what this does is it'll take all of the kind of courses that are in a city, because Grid 2 is set across various cities for the street racing component.
Like real city maps?
Or... Yeah, like Chicago, and I don't know how accurate the racing routes would be, but like Chicago and Paris and London and Barcelona.
Interesting.
Like all of these real cities that have had courses put onto them. And what live routes are is they basically allow the game to dynamically put together pieces of these levels and turns and make a continuous, ever-changing course. They disable the mini-map for this. Like you can't see what's coming up ahead of you. So you have to be on your toes and watching, like, oh, here comes like this set of turns, and if you've raced on that city several times, you might start to pick up like, oh yeah, I know this turn and it leads into this one. But if you're still relatively new and playing on a live route, you really have to be on your toes because you don't know what's around the next corner.
So it's kind of like having someone sit in the seat just telling you, take this left kind of stuff, just like just making it up as they go along.
A little bit more like, I guess, Dirt's rally approach. During rally, you'll get instructions fed to you by your co-driver. So you'll get like left 3 at this grade, keep left. And like you'll have to process that information and know what's coming up around the next corner. But you still know. Grid 2 offers nothing like that on the live routes. It's all on the fly, completely dynamic.
How do you get shown what it is? Is there like an augmented reality kind of HUD thing to tell you which way to turn on the road, or? Nope,
it's just the course changes, and you'll come up to corners and they will be there.
I'm confused though, because you're driving on city streets, right?
Yeah, you're driving on city streets.
Do they just like put a building here to make you turn? What? I'm confused.
They don't just put a building there. It's not like constantly shifting, but like pieces are being assembled ahead of you, I guess.
So they're like constructing the city.
Yeah, basically.
Oh,
and
I thought it was here are the city streets. It's making a route within those.
Right? No. Different pieces can be put down, and it's constructing the city in front of you. Essentially.
Okay.
So you'll turn a corner, and you won't know which part you're coming up on necessarily.
Right. Interesting.
It's a really cool approach.
Sounds like it's fun because it's sort of. Is it like an endless thing? You can just keep going.
No. Usually there is either a time limit on it or it's point to point. I think mostly the live routes have been you have to cover as much distance as you can on this dynamic course over the span of 5 minutes.
Right.
That's cool. One other thing I also missed from Grid 1, just really quickly. Are you familiar with the 24 Hours of Le Mans?
No.
It's a 24-hour race. That's in Grid 1. You can actually do it for 24 hours if you really, really wanted to. Like, you could literally run a 24-hour race. But at the end of...
What? Okay, sorry.
No. You can ask your thing first.
No, it's not a thing. It's just I struggle to think of anything I would want to do less.
Yeah. It's a 24-hour race. They also offer condensed versions of it, complete with a full day-night cycle. It's very cool.
Okay.
They let you do those in between each season, and that was also a thing that was missed, I think, in Grid 2, because at the end of each season in Grid 1, which was a fixed number of events, then you would get to do the 24 hours of Le Mans and try and compete for a significant cash bonus.
But it takes 24 hours.
It takes 12 minutes in that version that's offered.
Okay, see that I could do.
That's the very condensed version of it. It's still an endurance race.
Yeah, I mean it's what 120 times shorter than the actual one.
I definitely contemplated actually running the 24 hours of Le Mans for a charity stream or something like that.
Just even staying up for 24 hours, you get really tired.
Yeah, but real ass drivers do this. They do this event.
Lots of people do things that I wouldn't want to do.
Yep, that's completely understandable. That was that. The question I wanted to come to from that whole discussion, which the takeaway of is I really love Grid 2. I'm bummed that stuff got missed from Grid 1 seemingly, or just people thought that it was maybe, not great for the design. I'm curious though. Mm-hmm. Have you ever had a series like that? A series that's done that to you? Have you ever had a series that you've come to the next game and just been bummed by a missing feature or something that made the original special to you? I can think of one for me right now. It's Mass Effect.
I was just thinking, Mass Effect 1 and 2, they changed a lot between those two games.
Yeah.
That was the one that I was thinking of. I was trying to think of if there was any one particular thing I could narrow it down to.
It's Mass Effect. This is the second time I've been betrayed by a sequel. The first one's Mass Effect, though. I imagine maybe some people who really liked the Elder Scrolls games, and particularly Morrowind and Oblivion.
Yeah. So Morrowind had bad combat.
True.
I don't think very many people will argue with me when I say that. But it had so much good stuff that got taken out in Oblivion. Yes, that's definitely one. It doesn't quite fit the mold just because I played Oblivion first and then Morrowind, so it's not like I played this and then the sequel came out and it was missing this stuff. Although Oblivion to Skyrim, again, you don't have your boots and your gauntlets and your greaves and your cuirass anymore. Everything's all sort of chucked into one thing. Whereas I liked having more little different parts of armor.
I've got some contributions from the chat. If I'd like to read this real quick. Yard Gnome grabs a bullhorn and screams "Destiny 2."
Okay.
Which I feel like a lot of people would agree with that. I can see it, even if I don't necessarily share the same concerns that a lot of the Destiny hardcore do. I didn't play a lot of Destiny 1. That's a fact. I've played more Destiny 2 overall than I have played of the entirety of Destiny 1. And so a lot of the stuff, I guess, just hasn't really affected me, but has affected the people who put hundreds or thousands of hours into Destiny 1. Because there were things between those games, like the weapon system, armor shaders, that have all just changed.
It's interesting that I've talked a lot about how Monster Hunter has taken things away and added different things between its games, but I don't think I've ever really felt that I really missed something that took away. I felt, in that case at least, it just made, it's like this game's thing was this, Right?
Yeah.
Anything like, how they had the underwater combat in Try, and then they took it away, and it was a huge part of the game. And I think Try was better for it, but I don't think it was necessarily a bad thing to take it out. Some stuff that's been added has stayed, like mounting monsters would just be weird to take out now.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because it feels like one that maybe I should pick up here, but I don't think there is anything I could say that was taken away that should have been in a subsequent game. That immediately occurs to me, at least.
Maya Bird also contributes. I went from Tony Hawk's American Wasteland to the one after it, and it was such a letdown. The Tony Hawk games got taken over by Skate a long time ago, to which Yardnome also says that, the Tony Hawk series is a big mood for this question.
I played Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2 a lot, but it's the only one I've played.
I think, I long for the days when Tony Hawk Pro Skater games were, the thing that everyone was playing. I loved playing Tony Hawk.
I remember there was one map with cars on it and you could get hit by cars, and I just do that. I must have been pretty young.
That's always a good time.
Yeah. And there was the big head mode.
Was there?
Yeah. Can't remember how you unlocked it. Yeah. And I think there was one map in space or something. It was, there's some weird stuff.
Also, apparently Maya says that was the first game.
Okay. I definitely played Pro Skater 2. Maybe I also played the first one.
Oh. Yardnome is also now bugging me to download Thug Pro.
What's that?
Tony Hawk's Underground Pro, which is a fan-released mod on the PC that has put online into the game and provided a functional port of that game. I don't know, maybe I'll check it out. Or maybe I'll just run a PS3 emulator on my PC and dump Skate 3 onto my PC.
Are there good PS3 emulators on PC now?
Yeah, there are. They run on Vulkan.
I don't know what that is.
It's an updated, very, very fast graphics API.
Okay, cool.
It's a bit more efficient on certain hardware than DirectX, I believe, is the main appeal, because it runs closer to hardware. So the thing about that is I have several PS3 games, and it's not expensive to get a Blu-ray drive. I could literally start dumping my own PS3 ROMs and start playing them.
That's pretty
Which I would love to play Red Dead Redemption at 60 frames per second, even if it would break the physics in that game.
Oh, does that game have physics tied to frame rate?
I think it might. I don't know.
That's always fun. There was a Star Wars The Phantom Menace game that I played probably in 2002, because that was right after the game came out.
Yeah, that was right after... Wait, no, that movie was 1999.
Oh, sorry, I was thinking of the first Lord of the Rings game. Yeah, probably 2000. But I remember there was a cheat to set it on 60 frames per second, and the only real difference I noticed was that there was one level where during one part of it you would shimmy across some vines, and it was really slow. But if you were playing at 60 frames per second, you were going really fast. It's this one thing was tied to the frame rate.
I know that, there's been some weird shit over the years that it's been tied to frame rate. Dark Souls had weapon durability tied to frame rate.
What?
Yeah. The amount of frames that you would pass through things on screen would affect your durability. Each frame that it was in a thing, because each animation is a fixed amount of frames.
Oh, okay.
And so when you doubled the amount of frames that are being rendered, you were doubling the durability.
Or the durability loss.
Effect, yeah. So that was always a fun one. Dark Souls also has just generally physics-tied stuff. It's very much easier to clip through things on a 60 frames per second copy of Dark Souls.
You know what I'm thinking of now?
What are you thinking of?
Fallout 3 and Oblivion, where you'd open a door and put someone in the doorway and then close the door, and they'd be in the door. And then
And
you
they
just
do like a
you'd
little
like,
dance.
and they do the dance, and like you could have a door that would slide down and fall out, and you'd open it, and you'd put a body there, and you'd close it, and you'd open it, and then lift the body up. It was great.
I love Bethesda games. They're so busted. They're like busted in a very lovable way, I feel like. I think it's hard to disagree with that.
Yeah.
Shall we wrap up?
Sure.
What are you looking forward to playing next week?
I think I will try Call of Taroth a few more times. That depends mainly on if I've got friends who are also trying at the same time. Because I'm still not into playing with randos, and this is one that soloing would just take a long time, because it would take a long time to get the points I would need to be able to fight it long enough to beat it. So probably that. I don't know if this week will be the week where I get to return to Kentucky Route Zero, even though I have really enjoyed that game, because I will be playing a ton of Battletech. See, I keep wanting to call it McRoy because all of the games that I played were like McRoy 2 and stuff. So I'm going to be calling it the wrong thing a few times. Battletech. I am mostly going to be playing Battletech.
There you go.
How about you?
I'm mostly going to be playing Grid 2, I think. It's got a career mode, which means that I'm probably going to spend a lot of fucking time in that game.
Cool.
I love weird video game career modes in sports games.
Oh god, have you played some of the Need for Speed career modes? Just the stories they have. This all like the
Hot
same
Pursuit
bad story.
Was a nightmare disaster. Back in 2007. All the hottest butt rock to go with it.
I can't remember any specific Need for Speed game what story it had, but I remember they were all basically some really cool racer showed up and stole your car, so you have to get to the top to beat them.
Gotta get those pink slips.
There was one Need for Speed game that had like a 12-minute race against someone whose car you could win, but whether or not you got the car was based on chance, and I think my brother won that race like 7 times and restarted because he didn't get the car. And he didn't even want to use the car. He just wanted to get all the cars, which I think is like sensible.
Yeah.
But it was such a long freaking race.
Aye. Yeah, Grid 2, I think is my main go-to. And
Nice.
I don't know yet. I think within the next couple of weeks I might try to get my hands on a copy of Minute and play that. Yeah.
Oh, is that the sort of Groundhog Day kind of indie game?
It's it's a small
Groundhog
like
Minute.
Legend of Zelda kind of style, I guess, like in terms of the gameplay, it's a Legend of Zelda kind of style. It's got very simple black and white graphics, and it's played 60 seconds at a time. You have a cursed sword that kills you after 60 seconds.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yep. Then you wake up and start the day over. There's a lot of progress that's maintained, apparently, each time. And you have, like, various homes throughout the world that will, like, allow you to spawn in different locations temporarily.
Right.
Because otherwise you'd have to waste so much of your time traveling.
Yeah.
That there's no hope of finishing the game if you were just to use the base home, but because you can switch it, it means that you have a fighting chance.
Mm-hmm.
But I've heard virtually nothing but good things about that game, so I kind of want to check it out.
Yeah, I read some good stuff about it earlier this week.
It's got a very specific, focused design quirk, and I'm into that.
Nice.
Cool. Well, thank you for listening to this week's episode of PauseCast. If you'd like to help out the show, there's a few ways you can do that. First, you can rate and review the show on iTunes, Google Play, or your other platform of choice. Reviews help us out a lot if you can give them, so please do. You can also support us financially in a couple of ways. First, you can go to bit.ly/pausecoffee. I actually have been missaying the URL for the past month because I didn't check my Bitly like a clown. Because I'm a clown.
Oops.
Yeah, so at bit.ly/pausecoffee will take you to our coffee. You could throw us $3 and buy us a coffee. I'm sure that we would appreciate it. Mark, you don't drink coffee, do you? You just drink chocolate.
Yeah. Oh, I think Cadbury's changed their drinking chocolate recipe because now it tastes like blue cheese.
What?
It's got kind of a gross aftertaste. I've tried and I can't drink a mug of it anymore, so I'm going to need to look for a new one.
How do you screw up hot chocolate so bad that it tastes like blue cheese?
Well, okay. I'm exaggerating there. It has an aftertaste that reminds me of blue cheese. That's what I should say. But
it's still bad.
Yeah, it's not good. Like I said, I can take I can't finish a mug of it. I've got some of the old good stuff still left at home, but when I run out of that, I don't know what I'm going to do.
I've got a recommendation for you, and I'll talk to you after the show.
Cool.
Just so we don't say any more brand names than necessary.
Fair enough.
Program. Okay. Maya's got the inside scoop for you in the chat.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. You can also support us every month on Patreon for as little as $1 a month. You can gain access to exclusive roles at discord.bird.school and early access to special content when we produce it. We're very seriously looking at ramping up I'm very seriously looking at ramping up the amount of bonus stuff that we do as we come into our 3rd year of existence. Which, by the way, happy year 3. This is year 3 now.
Really?
We're in it. This is the 3rd year of this show's existence.
Holy shit! What was the date we started on?
I would need to reach back into the archives to confirm that. But why don't I do that since I can edit it in post? We definitely started in April also.
Okay, wow. Sweet, that's really cool.
I see our podcast host has changed their icon to a little Iron Man to celebrate the Infinity War. Are you checking that out? I don't know if you don't do an Avengers.
Well, I haven't seen. I think the Avengers movies are the only Marvel movies I probably haven't seen. I'm not like a huge follower of them, but I tend to just end up seeing them. I really enjoyed Black Panther, and I enjoyed Thor Ragnarok quite a lot. I'll probably end up seeing this one, and because of that, I've been avoiding spoilers as best I can.
Well, I was wrong completely. We're not quite in year 3, actually.
So
never mind. Though. End of next... we'll get past May and into June, and that's actually year 3. Sorry for the preemptive year 3 hype. But our first episode ever was published on June the 8th, 2016. Hype. So that's cool. Coming up on that. Let's get back to Patreon, though. Now that we've gotten off the sidetrack, let's get back to Patreon. You can support the show every month at Patreon for all of those bonuses. And you can find that at patreon.com/PauseCastShow. Thank you very much to all of our patrons for their continued support. Our patrons are Sammy, Mary, Para, Dove, Corey Bat, Residoke, Ash Yee, Laminated Moth, and PD. All of you are supporting the show. Thank you so much for that continued support. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
I also need to be better about updating our Patreon. I need to set reminders on my calendar. I'm so bad at managing all of this stuff. I'm sorry, everyone. We're doing okay. It's fine. Mark, where can people find you online?
I'm on Twitter at HonestUniverse, and I write a blog as well, though not about video games, at honestuniverse.com. How about you?
And you can find me online at bird.school. You can find me streaming every week, hopefully more now that my mental health is in a better position, at maximumgun.org. Thank you as well to Leon for the use of our theme song, Honey Milk Island. You can find Leon's music and download some of it for free at soundcloud.com/LEYAWN. And that's going to do it for us this week on PauseCast. Again, thank you so much for watching. We really, really appreciate it. And until next time, bird up.
Bye.